So it's time for another POV video. It's been a while. Today we had our first snow of the year in Stockholm, and I really felt like going out, taking some photos. The reason I was using the Ricoh GR3X today and not my regular Sony A9 Mark II setup is that last week I was out photographing so much, carrying the camera so much that I got some kind of pain in my shoulder, and I don't want to risk that getting worse, so I figured let's take the super lightweight Ricoh GR3X camera. As you can see, I have the small optical viewfinder on this camera, and I really think it's worth getting if you, like me, really love having some kind of viewfinder to frame some of your photos. And the little optical one works very well, I would say. The frame lines are true to what you get in the camera, and sure, you cannot see where you're focusing and stuff like that, but I mean, the autofocus on this camera is so unreliable anyway, so you cannot really trust it no matter how you're doing it. As you can see in this video, I have something new. I am showing you the raw file, how it looked before I did any editing at all, and then I show you the edited photo, so you can get a feel for how much I'm editing my photos. In some instances it's a lot, in some instances it's almost nothing, but I typically lift the shadows, decrease the highlights. I like making the photo a bit more warm. Usually I add a little bit of vignetting, and lately I've actually also been adding some grain in Lightroom because I love that old school filmic look that you get with a little bit of extra grain in your photo. I've been doing street photography now for a few weeks, and I've started to learn what areas I like walking around in. One of those areas is definitely the old town in Stockholm. It's cozy there. I always loved walking around there even before I started photography, and usually I like to combine that with walking around in nearby areas such as Slussen or Södermalm. So I think it's nice when you're kind of starting to get used to doing this, that you find the areas you like walking in and you get more and more comfortable walking in those areas. What I've also learned now over the past few weeks is that whenever the weather is not perfect, such as it's windy and snowing like today, or maybe it's raining heavily, then there will not be a lot of people outside. People will only be outside when the weather is nice. So that is always something to take into consideration. Today there weren't many people outside at all, at least not in Old Town. The Ricoh GR3X is such an excellent camera, especially for the money. I really love this camera. It's incredible how small it is and how pocketable it is, and also the big sensor, the APS-C sized sensor is great and has great dynamic range. You can really do a lot with the photos if you want to. The only drawback I think with this camera, the only thing that I don't really like, is that the autofocus is really bad, at least compared to top of the line autofocus like on the Sony cameras. But I do find that it is a bit charming with this look, slightly out of focus. Sometimes I just love the aesthetics of that, like in this photo. So yeah, the autofocus is not great on the Ricoh GR3X, but I choose to view that in a positive perspective. It can sometimes make for interesting looking surprises. Overall, the light was pretty boring today, not that interesting. I did not get many photos I was happy with. I think my favorite shot maybe from today was this one. When we lift the shadows a bit and make it black and white, it looks kind of cool. I like how I got so many of the birds in one shot. And here we have another one of those slightly out of focus shots. I think it has a nice kind of retro aesthetic to it. Some people have been asking me if I'm gonna do any more macro photography content, and I think I will at some point. But this time of the year in Sweden, it's really the worst time ever to try to do macro photography. I mean, when I was obsessed with macro photography, I did macro photography videos even this time of the year. I found ways to do it, but these days I just find it so much more fun to do street photography now when it's winter and we have snow and rain and no insects. But I do think that I will probably do some macro photography next spring. It's quite likely, especially after not doing it for several months, that I will want to take it up for a while at least again. And I have no idea whatsoever if the main focus of this channel will ever be macro photography again. Or how long it will be street photography for that matter. We'll simply have to wait and see, and it's all decided by my gut feeling and what I'm drawn towards. And for me it's really hard to tell what that will be in a few months from now. Something I've also been pondering lately is that there are very different kinds of street photography and very different kinds of street photographers. I know that most people who say they do street photography would not call what I'm doing in this video street photography, even though I'm walking around on streets doing photography. I mean, when you say you're doing street photography, most people think that you're just photographing people candidly, and that your main focus is people and people doing things. And I think that is maybe the classical definition of street photography. But there are also lots of street photographers who are not focusing on people per se. They are focusing on making aesthetically pleasing scenes that may or may not have people in them, and where the people are mostly just lending their shape or their silhouette to the photo to make it part of a graphical shape or an interesting composition. And such street photographers, I feel I am probably closer to them, because I'm not really that interested in people and expressions of people. I'm interested in making nice looking photos or interesting looking photos, no matter if it's people in them or no people at all, or if it's animals or whatever it is. And that has been my driving motivation also when I did macro photography. I have never been interested in insects really. I've only been interested in making aesthetically pleasing photos, and for some reason I found it easier to do that in macro photography than in other genres of photography. And that very much applies still for me. I find it a lot harder to take really nice looking photos when I'm out walking on the streets like this. I think that 1 hour spent in town for me taking photos yields less nice photos than 1 hour spent doing macro photography. I still though feel a lot more excited these days about street photography, even though it is a lot harder for me because it's new. I'm exploring something that I am not that familiar with, and that adds a lot of excitement for me. And that is the main reason I prefer doing street photography these days. I want to explore something new. It's as simple as that. This is a really well-known lookout point in Stockholm, and it's funny because I think I have never been up here before. Yeah, maybe once a long time ago. But that is another aspect that I love about these street photo walks, that I am rediscovering my hometown. I haven't spent much time in the town in the last 10 years or so, and it's a lot of fun and a great relaxation to just walk around and explore. And even when I don't come home with any good photos at all, like today, I'm not really that happy with any of the photos in this video. Despite all that, it was still very much worth it for me to do this photo walk today, and it always is. And the reason for that is that I simply enjoy it. I enjoy walking around, I enjoy taking photos, and I think the reason I enjoy it so much is that I pretty much always get into the zone. In macro photography, that took some effort most of the time, but when I'm walking in town like this, there is so much happening everywhere, and it's always new scenes because the weather is different, the people are different, and yeah, it's always something is different. So that, for whatever reason, makes it easier for me to get into the zone, and I forget everything else in my life, everything else that is going on in the world. I forget to check social media for a couple of hours. I am just completely in the moment when I'm walking around, and I think that is what makes it so enjoyable. And with that little ramble, I think we are done with this video. Thank you for watching and for listening, and see you very soon again in another video.